Hello, it's Caroline from Spirit of Nature Art and welcome to episode 5 of the Enchanted Garden Altered Lapbook collaboration with the amazing artist Rachel Tribble. And today, episode 5 takes us over here to this flap on the left-hand side. I had to think about that. And Rachel has given me access to so many of her beautiful pieces of art. This was part of the kind of forest, kind of hut series that she sent through to me. We used one of the sketches on the last episode. And when I sat down with this, I'm sitting here at this point and I still have no idea what I'm doing. I've just decided that I am going to cut this little hut out, perhaps a bit of a kind of cut out feature. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing yet. So I've decided that I'm just going to take away the right hand side of this picture and just kind of see how that feels on that flap over there. I wanted this to feel and look not quite so kind of, oblong. So seeing that there like that gave me an idea. So I am going to take off now all of the excess white around the edge. I printed this specifically to that size. So there's a bit of excess here just to trim off. And when I put it on the page here like that, and I start to open and close the flap, my brain starts firing off and giving me ideas that, you can see my fingers are tapping there. That means I'm having an idea. And so I am going to do this as a full-on proper cutout page. So I am going to start by cutting out the windows so that we have a space through like that. And just like with the forest scene that we used on the other side of the book, I want to add a little bit of colour here. So I'm using the same colours. Again, I want this book to feel cohesive. So I'm coming in with the same colours. So I'm using Bundled Sage, Distress Ink, and then I'm also going to use Vintage Photo and Ground Espresso Oxide inks. And I'm just going to use the Bundled Sage, just to highlight the leaf areas of the tree. And then I've used Vintage Photo for the actual hut. And then I'm using the Ground Espresso to edge the whole piece and to edge inside those frames as well. So there's none of that white showing where I've cut it. And this is the idea I started to have, that I wasn't just going to cut through the windows. I'm going to cut around the whole thing. So I'm just laying that piece of paper there on top of that flap and drawing around it. So I'm drawing around the edge and I'm drawing around those windows as well, so that I know where to take my scalpel blade to. And this makes me feel really happy because I didn't want those two pages to be too symmetrical. So those two kind of square oblong pages that were going to be exactly the same kind of size just didn't feel like it was doing it for me. Felt a bit too samey. So when this idea came about making a cutout page, I was very excited. So I'm taking plenty of strokes with the scalpel rather than trying to go through in one go. So just kind of doing a very gentle one to start with, just to get the right line, and then just going back over it again and again just to get through that grey board, because it's quite thick, that grey board. And you want to be careful that we don't press too hard with the scalpel and end up breaking it. So here we go. I have cut out my little forest hut. So there, how good is that? So I love that, putting that in place. We can start to see how this is going to look now. And I'm using a nail file here to partly to smooth out where I've cut that, but also partly to rough it up, if that makes sense. So I want the edges not to look smooth. You'll notice I followed the lines of Rachel's windows there. I haven't made them square. So I was just kind of making sure there wasn't anything sticking out onto the smooth part of the page. And then I'm going back in with some more of that bookbinding tape just to seal the top and the bottom edges, just so it matches along with everything else. and also it protects those edges as well. It makes it all just a little bit more robust. I'm only going to do the top and bottom on this though, because if I try and use this big book binding tape around the long edge or around the window frames, it's going to get a little bit bulky and I'm not going to be able to fold it very well. So I'm just going to use some acrylic paint just to add that kind of black edge. So we're not seeing grey board, we're sealing it. And I've chosen this is the Paper Artsy little black dress. So it's a chalk finish paint, so it's not going to be shiny, so it kind of blends in a lot with that bookbinding tape. You're not really going to notice much difference by the time I finished with it. So I am doing the actual edge, but I'm also going around the corner a little bit as well onto the front and the back edge. So I've got just a little bit of room for kind of forgiveness there if my page isn't exactly the same size as the cardboard underneath. Just means that if there is any discrepancies, you're just going to see the black. And I'm just going around those window frames as well, so just doing the inside cut area, but also the flat areas on the front and back as well, again for the same reason. We don't want to see any of that grey board poking through when we attach our lovely little forest hut, so that it looks like that. So now I want to add in the windows. So I'm just using some acetate, cutting it to size and gluing that down. I don't know about you, I actually find using acetate quite difficult because I can't see what I'm doing when I'm trying to cut it. So hopefully you can see better on screen now. So just cutting those windows to size, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of glue, just tiny little beads of glue, not too close to the edge, so that when we place the acetate down, it's not going to all smoosh out into the bit of window that we're going to see. So there we go, we have our windows in. And now I'm just kind of playing around with what's going to go behind it. Not quite sure yet, putting in a few things. I'm fiddling around a little bit because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing next with the little forest hut. So I'm just kind of playing really, seeing how it might look, what I might do, just to give my brain a little bit of space to think about what's coming next. I don't quite know why I needed space to think about it, because of course the obvious thing that comes next is some more gold, isn't it? So I am coming in to gold leaf the leaves in exactly the same way as I did on that last page. So I'm just using my gold foiling glue here and just painting each individual leaf, only doing a few at a time because this paper is quite porous and the glue just sinks in. So I don't want to leave it too long. So I'm just going to do a few at a time and then add the gold leaf to it and gently brush that away. So I hope those of you who are following along are having fun. I know some of you have been to Rachel's shop and bought the journaling kit that goes along with this. So in that kit, you can purchase the pieces of art that I've been using here, so that you can follow along and make your own altered lapbook as well. So if you are doing it, if you're following along, please do put photos up. If you're on Instagram, please tag me and Rachel so that we can see what you're doing, because that's the thing about YouTube. You can put comments in and tell us what you're doing, but we can't see the actual outcomes. So if you are following along, whether you're doing it with Rachel's art or whether you're using other art, then do tag us on Instagram. We would love to see. So you can see here just a few leaves that I'm doing, then adding a bit of that gold foiling, and then just using a really soft brush just to brush away the excess to reveal those beautiful gold leaves underneath. So having spent last week hoovering up the gold leaf from the other page, I've now got a load more. So here we go, all that lovely gold leaf and 2 forest huts. So I flipped, when I printed it out, I flipped it so that I had two mirror images. And I've done exactly the same on the other one. I've coloured it with the Distress inks, I have edged it, I've put the acetate windows in, and I have gold leafed it. So that when you turn the page, if only I could get the screen in shot, but when you turn the page, you've got the hut on the front and you open it and you see the back of the hut. So I am now kind of basically what I'm doing is putting off sticking them down because I'm still not 100% sure on a few of the details yet. So I thought what I would do is bring in some of that gold luster wax that we have already used in the project and just edge a few of these areas here. So I'm edging all the way around the windows and around those edges that either have the book tape or the paint on, so that we're just adding that little bit of something, that little bit of glimmer, that little bit of gold, which is running through the whole project. Again, just having a few things that we use regularly helps bring a project together. I'm sorry, I was so focused on what I was doing here that I wasn't paying any attention to whether I was in shot or not. But you get the idea of what I'm doing. I'm just adding a little bit of that luster wax onto my finger, rubbing it off onto that little bit of card there so that I can just get a much smaller amount on my finger, and then I'm just rubbing it along the edges. I'm not being too fussy here about what this comes out like, because a lot of this will get covered when I stick the forest hut down, but I also want to get this edge on the spine as well, so that everything's just starting to get that finishing touch to it as well. So whilst I was doing all of that, this is one of the things that I was thinking, what do I want to do? I feel like I want to add something a little bit down the bottom in those gold leaves. So this was another one of the beautiful treasures that was in the box of artwork that Rachel sent over to me. So, and again, something you can buy from her Etsy shop. All the links to all of Rachel's Etsy shop, and also to the pack that has all of the things in that you need for the book so far, because of course I still don't know what's coming in the next pages. So I've cut out these beautiful butterflies from another one of Rachel's pieces of work, and I've got a Sharpie pen there. I'm just going around the edges just to take away that harsh whiteness of the paper underneath, and now going back with some of that luster wax. I didn't want the kind of real heaviness of the embossing, the gold embossing powder here, so a little bit of that luster wax just enabled me to pick out a little bit of the gold from those leaves and that little bit of something on the edge of those butterfly wings that just felt a little bit like that lovely shimmer that you get when you see them flying in the sunshine. So just sticking those two down, and what a difference that makes. Just those two little pops of colour make such a difference to that whole piece. And now to me, that felt like it was more finished and ready for me to stick down. I think that's why I was kind of constantly putting it off. I literally put it off for days because there was just something missing. And as soon as I put those butterflies on, that was it. Don't tell me why, it just felt like it. And what I'm just doing now, I'm kind of wanting to give myself the option of having a journaling card kind of pocket there. I'm not sure I'll use it right now, but I wanted to make sure that the option was there when I glue it down. So I've just kind of drawn around a journaling tag to make sure that when I glue it down, I leave that space glue free, so it gives me the option. So I'm using my HiTack glue here because I really want this to be kind of secure when it sticks down. And I'm not going too close to those windows though, because I don't want that glue splurging out onto the acetate. And I'm just keeping that area there where I drew around that tag glue free, so I have the option of sliding a tag in and out if I want to. And just unfolding the page so that that flap is completely flat, just to give me the best chance of being able to get this to stick down and adhere nicely. And of course, I don't want to rub off any of that beautiful gold foiling that I've been doing, so I'm just using a scrap of paper to put over the top so that I can really rub and make sure that that is stuck down properly, especially around those edges there, and especially along the spine side as well. And now coming to sticking the inside one on, I first have to sort out the inside of this spine here with all this black book tape. We don't want that. So I've brought in some more of this lovely ribbon that I've used already on the project, and I'm just giving it the distress treatment with some vintage photo and then edging with ground espresso. And I'm just kind of lining this up. I want to make sure that the edge of it is covered by the edge of the forest hut, but also there's enough on the other side to cover the overlap that will come on the other page when I finish that. So I'm just using my HiTack glue because this gives me an opportunity to move things a little bit, but not too much, because what I want to do, as you can see there, I want to burnish into those kind of lines of the spine so that when I'm opening and closing it, the ribbon is already used to moving in that way. So I'm just kind of keeping the glue there ready and kind of adjusting as I go down. That's why I'm only doing a little bit at a time, so that I've got that opportunity to move and to burnish those spine lines whilst that glue is still wet, because it will dry quite quickly. And just doing that all the way down until I get to the bottom. And I'm just keeping on checking to make sure that I'm lined up, everything's still in the place that it needs to be. There we go. Now it's a little bit stiff at this point because it hasn't been used to bending, that ribbon hasn't been used to bending, but that will soon soften up the more I use it and the more it's kind of closed. So I will make sure that this is in the closed position over the next few days. So again, just kind of placing a journal tag there and drawing around it and then gluing in the same way as I did on the front, so that I can add a journal card in the front and back if I want to. And if I don't, you're not going to know whether that little gap is there or not. So just rubbing using that scrap of paper just to make sure I've got real proper adherence. And here we go. This is what we've got from me sitting down, having absolutely no idea what I was going to do. This is what it ended up like. And I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased this is a proper cutout page. I'm so happy with those butterflies in the gold foiling. It really does look like a magical little hut to sit in the forest. And here is how that looks along with everything else. So the dragonfly pockets that we did on the first week, the beautiful wildflower meadow sitting behind them, and those journaling spots. And then we've got our other forest page over on this side here with the little journaling tags. And of course the tags that we did that go inside the pockets. So that leaves us with this page, which I think will be the next one, and then the facing page here, and then it'll be time for the front cover. I can't believe we are almost there already.